This is KWMR 90.5 Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, 92.3 in the San Geronimo Valley. We are listener-supported West Marin Community Radio, streaming live online at kwmr.org, and cablecasting on Horizon Cable, Channel 47. Coming up next is Let's Talk, Call-In Radio.
Number 4, please. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes.
Hello. This is Let's Talk, Call-In Radio, getting to the root causes of the important issues of the day. This on-the-air community forum believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or 8317. And Shelley Rugg.
Yes, hello.
Co-host Shelley Rugg is in
Raphael.
control of the board. She is. She's at the console.
I am
on the bridge, and Stephen Hurwitz is in the studio.
Yeah, and I want to know, what if I don't agree with the fact that every voice matters?
That is your right. This is America after all. And I'm Paul Raphael. And when you call in, do call in, please. We're going to need you to call in today because I haven't got any notes. Have you got any notes?
No, I'm retired, so I'm just winging
I
it.
rarely ever have notes.
None of us have notes. We are not prepared for this show at all. So we need everyone to call in. It's a little hot there, a little hot on the dial. Yeah, there you go. And we need everyone to call in and join this discussion. And there are a lot of people to whom the subject today applies, and the subject is retirement.
Yeah, I think it actually might apply to virtually everyone.
Well, yes. I mean, it is a part of life, apparently. It's been that way since the 18th century, roughly, late 18th century, or late 19th century, perhaps, is when Germany first started giving people pensions. So you were expected to work for a certain number of years and then stop, and when you did, you would get a government pension, and that is the way Western Europe certainly has been doing it for a long time. And we imported that to the U.S., and then we imported it to Japan, where it's the company men, they retire, bump, they get the company pension. But so retirement, we're just, I didn't even read an article. It was just something popped up, and I was wondering about what does retirement actually mean to anybody? Does it mean what you see in all the retirement party greetings cards, where it's just a guy with a cocktail lying on the sand on a beach in a deck chair with a sunshade and just having the time of his life?
Take him back.
It seems to me, though, that this mandatory retirement, it's like saying mandatorily we're going to all of a sudden do without somebody's experience that's taken them decades to acquire. And we're going to maybe move somebody in there that does not have that experience.
Young blood. new thoughts. It's a experience. You get rid of experience, and you bring in new people with new ideas, perhaps, or more energy, perhaps. Or, I mean, isn't that why we have on certain official positions we have term limits, like the president, for example? And. Yeah, I mean, that's the idea behind term limits, is you get people in there who are not part of the machine, who have new ideas.
To freshen things up.
Yeah.
Well, we do need
It's
some term
certainly
limits
not the
for
way in the
Congress.
Senate, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, you know, my grandmother, she stayed employed as a bookkeeper for a market until she was 80.
Yeah.
Partly because she could. You know, she was capable of it, and because it gave her something to do and it continued to give her income. Her husband died at a young age, so she had been on her own for quite a while. And, but, you know, when she finally did retire, her new career was in entertainment.
Really?
Yeah.
So that retirement opened that space up, that energy. Space for her to pursue performance.
No kidding. At 80?
Uh-huh.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Your whole life is still ahead of your retirees.
That's right.
I think that's true, though. I think that my solution for retirement is to take up pottery, become a potter.
This is what you're doing? No, you're not doing that, are you?
No, not pottery.
But you're doing artwork.
I did do work in clay, though, back when I was younger. Yeah.
So what
Creative, whatever. I think I think creativity is important to people's lives.
And so if you have had a career that depends on your creativity, you're probably not going to, in air quotes, retire, right? I mean...
Right.
Musician, our friend of the show, Biff, in Marshall, I can't imagine him not writing music or singing or playing.
Yeah, I think if you have had the fortune to follow a passion of yours, why would you just suddenly stop?
Right. So it's a retirement is a construct of the 9-to-5 world, of the business world, of the of capitalism, basically.
Right.
Well, I don't know.
Except when you get to
social
the
economies, don't people have to retire? They don't fade away.
Fade away, yes. That's part of the thing. I told you this outside, but there was speaking of fading away after retirement, there was this guy who worked in an office I used to work in, dealt with the public. He was the first line of defense as the public walked in. That's how he saw it, that it was for a Social Security office, and I was working behind the counter and not getting it from over the counter. And he would actually turn people away if he felt that they were not entitled to what they were asking for, which he had no authority to do from Her Majesty. But he did it anyway because he was kind of a mean little nasty person. But he was reaching retirement age, and I think sort of looking forward to it. He retired, and a month later he was dead because, in my opinion, because he didn't have a position of whatever authority he had to make people's lives miserable. He didn't have that anymore, and his wife wouldn't take it. So
he had a place
retirement was death for him. I mean,
use his power. He had a sense of power, and
he was a horrid little man who felt he was important, and
then he lost that all.
Yeah.
When he lost, when the job ended, and I could see that when I was young. I remember observing retirement. And so I can use my grandparents as an example. My grandfather was a judge, and when he retired, they went world traveling, which sounds really great. They took all the grandkids on various trips, which was awesome. I got to go to Japan when I was 12. Then they moved from the town they'd always lived in to a very far away rural community. And on the surface, it seemed really nice, but it actually caused depression, They didn't have the friends to connect with. They didn't have the jobs and the social organizations they belonged to and all of that. So they had to completely start over at a very late age in their life, late 70s or mid 70s. And I could see things falling apart for them and health going downhill. And I just thought, you really need something in your life that sustains you, outside of your job.
Sure, family and friends are very important to your health.
Unless your job is the type that sustains you, you could see yourself doing it until you just can't anymore. It's something that really you connect with deeply and you really enjoy.
Right. Or it gives you creative opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm of retirement age. Let's put it that way. I claimed Social Security not as early as I could because I wanted it to be a little bit extra. Try and get as much as I could, but I have no faith that Social Security is going to be there by the time I can reach 70, which is when you get the maximum.
Okay.
Or it's not going to be. I don't know. They're trying to. Republicans have been trying to kill Social Security since FDR brought it in. So.
What are we going to all get lump sum checks? Is that how they're going to?
No, you don't get anything. It's all done by the marketplace, of course.
Civil servants actually have fairly generous retirement benefits.
Yeah.
And I know two people worked. One was a cop, the other one was a teacher. They both retired. They both have a pension. I think they could live a very nice life on those pensions. And they're generous. One of the reasons they're so generous is that every time there was a problem, a teacher strike or whatever, the local politicians felt that it was easier to grant it and kick it down the road rather than actually face the hard questions of where's the money coming from, etc. So, in some sense, it's generations following this will be paying the price for their parents, for the.
Yeah, my dad had a great retirement package. He was completely taken care of at the end of his life, and could have just. If he hadn't lost his memory, he would have been acting on stage. He would have been directing productions. He would have been writing plays and producing them.
What did he do to get the retirement package?
He taught at a university.
Ah, there you are.
Yeah.
Good reasons. Good reasons to be in public service or in the military.
Yeah, so the financial piece is definitely a huge chunk of this conversation, but there's also the part of, what do I do?
Right.
Like, how do I picture my life going forward from not doing that particular job anymore?
That presupposes that someone has adequate income to give them the opportunity to make to have that existential choice to just redefine their existence. But if you find yourself, and I imagine that many, many people do find themselves in the situation where they haven't been able to save enough money, haven't maybe saved any money. It may not even have occurred to them that they had that option. So they find themselves with, like you said, Social Security, which might be very inadequate to maintain, a decent life with opportunity. So where do they go? What do they do? It's
as
it's
Medicaid,
a real question.
Medicare and Medicaid,
which is
wonderful.
1
1 in 3 Americans has $0 saved for retirement.
Is there a particular age group they're talking about, or just all Americans?
In the old days,
Let me check.
In the old days, somebody
You carry on without me.
where you had an extended family, the parents would move in with their children, and they'd watch the grandchildren. They'd take over those roles of the nanny. I mean,
Right.
Parents went off to work. They stayed home. They minded the kids. It was a you didn't
The
just stop
family
working.
village.
That's right. You had a role to play in the extended family. So that in many cases no longer exists. So again, and then plus they had a roof over their head, and
Why do you think that doesn't exist as much?
I think people are scattered to geographically all over
looks
the
like
place.
we got a caller.
I don't think they want to go live with their children, or vice versa.
Ah.
All right, we have a caller. Caller, please say your name and watch your language.
Hi, Shelley. It's MK.
Hi, MK. Thanks for calling.
I'm thinking about when my dad was, and like your dad, was in a profession for his whole adult life. And when he became time for him to retire, he retired and went off and was fine. But so many people now are not sticking with one career for their whole working life because of the way things are changing. And if you're changing jobs, it takes longer and longer to accrue enough time or whatever you have to accrue to qualify for retirement. So what's happening to those guys?
And there's this other insidious thing that's happening where companies are laying people off just before their pensions vest.
Yeah.
So they've been paying into this thing, and then oops,
Yep.
you're gone.
Dad, sorry.
That's a terrible thing.
It is awful.
Yeah.
Didn't our president do that to somebody who was in government service all his life? Who was that?
I think
yes.
maybe more than one.
Was it Comey?
No, it was his assistant.
Yeah.
The assistant to the director of the FBI. What was his name? McGann or?
No, it wasn't McGann.
Oh.
Anyway, he's fired him like a week before.
Yeah. Vindictive.
That's awful. Yeah, apparently, so here's more details on that survey. 18 to 34, of course, millennials. Well, I didn't have any savings when I was 34. 42% have not saved for retirement. Gen Xers up to 54. 30% of them have no savings for retirement. Boomers and seniors, 55 plus. 28% of them do not have retirement savings. Wow. And I have to say, I do not have retirement savings.
What's your plan?
I have no plan, as always.
Like
There is
some
no-
Just work till you die, right?
You
Work
can move
with
in
my-
with us.
Live, just die with my boots on.
Yeah.
Over when it's time.
But, so, MK, you,
Also, a lot of people who retire
yes.
don't know what they're going to do. A lot of times I know a number of women, and they're not really friends, but I know them, who have been crabbing all over the place about the fact that their husbands are home all the time. And they don't know what to do. And it's kind of a sad situation where you have a hobby that's like golf or something like that, but you don't have anything to keep your mind active and busy during your working life because you didn't like your job anyway. And then there you are at the end sort of moping around the house watching Truth or Consequences or whatever's on these days.
Is that still on?
Wow.
No, I don't think so. It just flapped into my brain. So, it's causing problems, and then with that comes depression, and with that comes bad health, and then there you are.
Yeah.
You didn't live during your life. You haven't, there's something to be said for living rather recklessly. Not completely. I know a lot of people that are a lot more reckless than I am. But when you get to this point, I can look back and say, boy, I did this and this and this. It was so much fun, and I'm so glad.
Yes.
And not have to say, oh, damn, I wish I could have, taken that cruise or gone on that trip or climbed Mount Vesuvius or whatever. And I can't do it anymore because my bunions hurt or whatever.
I was reading about there's a strategy that some people are following, and that is doing something that will imprison them. You have free medical care. You have a roof over your head.
I've thought of it.
No,
Meals and insurance.
It's actually happening.
Wow.
What do you mean? I'm not clear
Well,
what you mean.
they're retiring. They don't have the money. They get into prison.
Go to prison.
Yeah, go to
I
prison.
thought you were speaking figuratively.
They go to prison. Covered medically.
Sure.
Free meals, roof over their head.
Nice friendly conversations at the
and
commissary.
And the other side of the coin is that you have prisoners who have aged and have become elderly in prison, and now they have prisoners who are actually in roles of taking care of the elderly. That's a whole nother aspect. But in some cases, I mean, what do you do if you're 75 years old, you're in for 35 years, and all of a sudden your time's up?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, here's your $200 and a bus ticket.
Yep.
And you're living under a newspaper on the street.
Yeah. And you can't vote.
Right.
There you go.
Oh, boy.
Well, anyway, I'm interested in what you're talking about.
Well, I hope you're comfortable in retirement, so to speak. You're not retired, are you?
I'm comfortable as I am.
Yeah.
You know, I never worked any place where I could retire from because I'm a small private school teacher. And so one day I just realized when I was in Hawaii teaching children that I was no longer very effective. And then I stopped.
Yeah.
And so then what did you do?
And I could. Then I joined an artist co-op and supported myself with my work, which is what I wanted to do anyway.
Fantastic.
Nice.
So it just fell into my lap.
So
and I lived very simply, and I knew the guy that had the fishing boat, and I knew the guy that had the poi, and I knew the guy that had whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And you barter and get to know the community, and it was really great.
Yeah.
So what
Nice.
you're saying, though, is retirement becomes more successful when you have strong community ties.
Well, it doesn't hurt, I'll tell you that.
Sure.
Right, and if you have something that, you know, maybe you've always dreamed of doing and felt like your job kept you from it, and now suddenly you have this opportunity.
Right. Hopefully people didn't choose, you know, hang gliding or something like that. They chose woodworking or something a little closer to the ground.
That's right. Although, if you die doing the thing you love to do, isn't that what everyone wants?
Oh, it's absolutely especially if you're asleep while you're doing it.
Interesting. I'll have to think about that one.
Could you please call in 415-663-8492? We'd really appreciate what you have to say.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm going to get off and let somebody else call up. So
Well, thank you, MK. And,
enjoy the day.
You
Yeah.
too.
This is KWMR, and you're listening to Let's Talk Call-In Radio. The numbers to call are 415-663-8492 or 8317, and we're talking about retirement.
Yeah. Retirement. So
Mark
no
Dowie. Savings, huh?
No savings. Mark Dowie wrote in, said, when I reached 65, people started asking me if I was retired. I would blow up in their face, insulted that they could even imagine a studular young buck like me retired. I responded angrily to the question for years. Then, a few months ago, as I was inching toward 80, someone popped the question, and I found myself very calmly saying, yes, I'm retired, but only from doing things I don't want to do. And that will remain my answer until I'm too weak and stupid to do anything for anyone. There
That's
you go.
great.
Perfect.
Hey, we have a caller. Caller, you are on the air. Tell us your name and what's your language, please.
You bet. This is Biff here. I'm
Biff.
here with Ditch, and we're listening to your program. And I'm thinking that there are probably a lot of people out there in Radio Land listening, like you guys, like us. And immediately when the show started, we just started talking about our own lives, and it's like talking about what retirement meant to us, and it's really interesting. It's completely different for the two of us.
Well, can you
What did you come up
elaborate?
with? Yeah.
Well, I have a job that I'm really happy with, and I've been doing it all my life, and I can't imagine ever stopping it.
Mm-hmm.
It's creative. You're a musician and writer.
Yeah, among other things.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of those things that I just imagine the next phase of my life. I just keep imagining what the next thing's going to be, and I figure it's going to be the way I'll go someday. I'll just be out doing what I do.
Yeah, right.
Well, what I'm hearing you say though is
stopping it. Now Ditch here, I think he feels differently about it.
Yeah, this is Ditch. I'm a contractor. I have that.
I'm so sorry.
I'm 64 and I'm still digging ditches. So I can imagine retiring. no problem, and using my imagination to carry on with other projects and things I want to do in my life.
Give us an example of what that might be.
Would you golf, or what kind of stuff?
Well, I would spend a little more time in nature, hiking, cycling, spending time at the ocean.
Yeah.
Being around, things that are more nature than things that are more construction.
Quieter.
Much quieter. But one of the problems I see with a lot of us is financial, like you were talking about.
Right.
Money do we make as contractors? And to keep on contracting when you're 90 doesn't seem like it's a good thing for your health. So,
yeah.
I'm hearing both of you, and I'm thinking about the key to a successful retirement is doing something that you consider fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think your caller alluded to that too. Making your life, your work it's got to be fulfilling. Yeah, exactly. It's got to fill you up. I think having a job where you're not really present must be a really difficult thing. I'm fortunate enough not to know about that.
Yes.
Well, and so is Ditch. I mean, that's the good thing about contracting is that you're always on edge.
Yes, you are.
It's always exciting. You're always doing something physical, or you're in contact with people, with clients. I mean, there's the whole gamut of things that you have to be good at to be a contractor and succeed.
So what about the money piece?
And that gives skills for later in life once you... but again, it's the financial that you have to...
I think especially if we're working for ourselves.
Myself,
yeah.
The only issues I have is that in construction, there's too much that can go wrong in our profession. And the older you get, the less you can handle the stress of the problems. Mm-hmm. I was in my 20s and 30s, it wasn't a problem. We just dealt with it. But when you're in your 60s and looking towards 70 and thinking, I don't know if I want to deal with that again.
Right.
And it's constant, it's unavoidable in construction.
Yeah, sure.
It's because most contractors and most people in construction aren't highly educated. And there are some that get into commercial and they have a high education, but they still have to deal with the same situation. They have to deal with the problems that arise. It's just like, I think about that building in the Leaning Tower in San Francisco.
Oh, right.
Oh. Oh, my God.
Well, I mean, you think these people that build those buildings and the knowledge they have, the engineers, but look what happened.
Well, they figured out a solution on that, too.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're going to
everybody's.
They're going to pour each one of the units a flat floor.
Oh.
No.
Anyway, that's just my point about the dealing. In older age, it's tough to deal with the stress of the problem.
Right.
Minor.
But that seems like sort of a natural evolutionary unfolding that you can start to recognize for yourself, right? And that's like giving you clues. Okay, maybe it's time that I start heading towards those projects I really want to do more than the stuff that's really getting to me.
But doing something else rather than doing nothing, which is,
Yeah.
Well, I for me, it's not a problem to retire. I think that with my imagination, I'll keep busy.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of people that retire that I've known that don't have much of an imagination, and I think that's where they get stuck.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get out there and let your mind open up to new things.
Well, and I think it was MK mentioned, having some recklessness in your life. I think recklessness seems to. When you key on those events of the past year, many of them happened at a devil may care moment.
Right.
Those are the things that we oftentimes remember.
Yes.
Yeah, taking risks.
Yeah.
Expands our lives. As long as it doesn't kill us.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
apparently the biggest risk as far as money managers are concerned is that people don't save. I mean, I think I would class my life as having been reckless and devil may care and fantastic.
Yes.
But I am one of those people who has not saved. In fact, there's apparently it's like 25% of retirees, retirement age, less than $30,000 in the bank.
Oh, no. I'm going to just do a quick station break and we'll come back
Yeah.
to this conversation. This is KWMR, Point Reyes Station. You're listening to Let's Talk Call-In Radio with Stephen Hurwitz, Paul Raffel, and myself, Shelley Rugg. Call in to 415-663-8492 or 8317. We want to hear what you have to say about saving.
Well, saving.
Retirement.
What do you see? What do you see after retirement age? What are you imagining? Lying on the beach, or are you going to take up some other thing that will use skills that perhaps you don't even realize you have yet?
On the beach sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think I'm kind of not wanting to think about it either. And there are people who think, well, what if?
Why not design a new flip-flop, while you're hanging out on the beach?
Well, because you're creative. See, you think of that.
Or devise a new cocktail, perhaps.
Your imagination.
But so the question of what if something happens to you so that you aren't able to do the thing that you need to do to earn your money.
Well, exactly. After 40 years of being a contractor, maybe you're not going to be able to go climbing up mountains and
Well, so many people rely on
surfing.
On community, like senior service. There's meals we got today. Even there's senior.
That's right, senior meal today.
So
Community lunch.
Community
Is that
lunch.
what it
In
is?
other words, there's a lot of seniors. Seniors are encouraged, but anyone can go. And it's lovely to see younger people mixing with the seniors.
Oh,
Yep. I love the intermingling like that when you can find those situations.
Am I one of those younger people? Am I one of those younger ones?
Oh,
You can
yes,
claim it if
Stevie.
you want, Stephen.
Hey guys, great show. Biff and Ditch need to get back to work.
Biff and Ditch.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Retirement.
Be careful now. Thank you for calling. Give us a call, won't you? 415-663-8492 or 8317. I'm curious, certainly I am curious about what people imagine, if you're not already of retirement age, what you envision for your later life. I don't know. Did I envision still working on people's houses a half week? I do a lot fewer hours than I used to, but I didn't imagine that I would still be doing it. But I enjoy doing it, actually, and it's something I know how to do, and there's always a bit of a challenge involved.
But it's always available to you.
You're actually thinking and using your hands.
Yeah, the challenge is the creativity, yeah.
One thing we aren't considering is that when you reach retirement age, sometimes your body is not.
Well, exactly.
So you're much more dependent on medical care. I never had any doctors until I reached 65, and all of a sudden I had like 5 of them.
Right.
We have a caller. Caller, state your name and watch your language, please.
Hello, this is Donna calling.
Hi, Donna.
Hi. I wanted to interject something into the conversation about, you were on the line of community there a moment ago.
Yeah.
And senior lunch or community lunch. Well, I am trying to imagine a world where, such it was in Marshall, if you remember, Paul, back in the olden days, how we all gathered together regularly. We all hung out at each other's houses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to imagine now, in my new life of the last 30 years here in Point Reyes, now approaching retirement myself, creating a household where 3 or so, 4 counting my mother, elderly people live all together, maybe 5, ambulatory able-bodied seniors.
Sort of create a little village.
Created a little village, right? And we all, work in the garden and hang out in the afternoon, play games and have tea. But it's not like a 24/7 retirement home. It's not. It's like we support each other.
Right.
And instead of paying, $6,000 in one of those homes, the rent is, more reasonable.
Right.
Expect. And, if you could do it if you even had a house of your own. You could rent your own house out to a family, creating more affordable housing or more housing in the market around here. And you could live in this community here with other seniors who, like yourself, might, enjoy sitting together or gardening together or,
Yeah, I hear you, and I think the way the state of the country is moving, this is what we're really going to need to move towards. We're going to need to really help each other more and more.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And it could be done in lots of different kinds of communities. I'm wanting to do it here in my own particular house, but I just wanted to throw that out there into the conversation.
Yeah.
And see if you have any thoughts.
So it would be like an intentional community for mainly for seniors.
Yeah. You wouldn't have to buy in. You could rent your own house out so that you could have the income of your house that you owned live here at a reduced rate and have that surplus as your that would augment your Social Security, which you started this conversation with.
Right.
It would serve community. It would serve your financial needs. It would,
Yeah, interesting idea.
Do a number of things.
How does it compare excuse me, I'm English. How does that compare with Walnut Place?
Well, Walnut Place, it's more of a corporate kind of structure. I was speaking yesterday to a person who lived there who said that there were several people who weren't so happy, but, that's where they landed. But it's more of a, inside the box kind of establishment.
Right. But they have they have the garden out back. I mean, do you think there's
now? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But and it's wheelchair accessible. This not be wheelchair accessible exactly unless one of those pushed the person up the hill. But but it serves a certain population, and maybe the less ambulatory would be ideal there. But somebody who doesn't necessarily see that they're a fit yet for Walnut Place, might find still the community need. And what if their spouse died, and what if they're just home alone, and they have a big house now, and
isolation can be a real problem for people.
A huge problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember even, when I became a mother, I had been in graduate school, and in graduate school I was very engaged with a lot of people. There was a huge social network, and then I became a stay-at-home mom, and it took me a little while to recognize the depression that was hitting me. I thought, well, I shouldn't be depressed. I've got this great baby in my life. I can do whatever I want. But I had lost those social connections that I was having on a daily basis.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I lost that also when I stopped working in the public, and I thought, somehow it would continue. I would interact with those people, but
it's not the same. Yeah.
It's not the same. Yeah, on a daily basis.
Right.
You create family, and I think that's how I felt about Marshall.
Yeah.
When I lived in Marshall, and you were there as well, Paul.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. We were all
the old days
connected.
in Marshall. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, the old days. Yeah, we were all so connected, and helping each other constantly, and
I don't know if you feel this way, but I think that in West Marin in particular, it's hard to make connections. In Marshall, I always say it's a community of recluses.
Yeah.
And I thought that's when Locals Night, all of a sudden, we had a place. I mean, it was very effective in bringing us together. But now that's gone. Nothing has quite replaced it.
No, well, there is no.
Still do that, Stephen.
There's nowhere to do it right now. Although, The William Tell is open now.
Yeah.
Is that in Tamales?
Tamales.
Ah.
Yeah.
So we might be able to
Have you
talk
been
them
there?
into doing
Have you
something.
been there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. They're not a sponsor of this station, I understand, so we can't talk about them.
Uh-oh.
But no, it's very nice. And I have great hopes for it in the future. But yeah, we tried to do a locals night with the previous owner there, but yeah, Tony's Seafood Locals Night, fabulous. And I'm guessing that we'll still do it. It probably won't be on a Friday night. Once they reopen, it won't be on a Friday, because Friday's
A hot night.
big time.
Unfortunately, Locals Night was so successful it destroyed itself.
How was that?
Well, all of a sudden, it was a nice crowd. All of a sudden, we got music. And,
that was
so music
yeah.
was an attraction to a much larger audience. In the original Locals Night, we could change tables. You could walk around, just drop in, drop out. There was just this, it was easy.
Yeah.
It was where all of a sudden it's much harder. I remember one night we were in a line to get a seat at Locals Night.
Well, and you bring up a good point, Stephen, and that is the music aspect. I find it true also at this community lunch in town, is that oftentimes it's so important for the people who are coming to have that interaction. And it's really difficult, actually, to talk over the music.
Oh, there's music at the lunch?
Sometimes,
very often.
Ah.
Yeah, we had
and
children
it's
last week
wonderful
who sang.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's wonderful music. It's just disappointing to have it during the talking time. We're all visiting.
You're right, though. The music made it really hard on Locals Night for us to actually be with each other.
Right. Well, I need to get going. I just wanted to interject that thought.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah.
The idea of that a community house, a seniors community house. I was thinking of calling it White Caps at the Coast.
Cute.
Lovely.
Anyway.
Thank you so much, Donna. Thanks for calling.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Oh, that's nice. See, a community answer. Talking about always being in each other's houses, that's still happening to a small extent in Marshall. And, of course, our co-host sometimes, Charles Schultz, is wonderful at maintaining connection. He strolls the streets of Marshall and the driveways of
We
Marshall.
have streets. I was going to say we have streets.
And really does help maintain the glue in the community. It's very much active in that way.
Well, traditionally we moved in with our children. Or we may have not even have left the household of we had an extended family. And
now the children have moved out.
Maybe now you don't want to live with your children. No, who wants Grandpa to come back?
Yeah, right. Well, of course. And another terrible part of my planning, I have no children to leech off. Oh,
no savings, no children. So let's look at what resources you do have.
Yeah.
What are the alternatives to children and money when you can't work anure?
Oh, when I can't work anymore? I don't know.
Prison.
We've already... There's always prison. No, I do have a little extra income, not just Social Security. So it's enough to keep me ticking over. I'm certainly far better off than millions of people. So yeah, there's a buffer there, and it can keep me ticking over. It would be difficult to be in West Marin, and if I were on my own and not and be able to afford to live in West Marin. But the most important thing in life is the companionship and love that you have in your life, and I have that, and I'm very fortunate in that way. So,
yes, my husband and I have decided, worst comes to worst, we got this awesome car. We can live.
I still have my Vanagon.
We have each other.
Westphalia.
We got the vehicle big enough to sleep
It's
in.
always the backup.
It's interesting that you brought up Vanagon. The new homeless, really, they say, are people who have these. They have the large vehicle, the trailers that they, they're on the road.
Oh, big ones, you mean?
Yeah, or whatever.
Big
they're on the
RVs.
road. Yeah, the big RVs. That's
Well,
your new home.
that is the American retirement dream, or one of them, isn't it? To get an RV that's bigger than any house I've ever lived in, and drive all over the country and live in luxury with all your stuff.
It's actually
traveling.
a young person's dream. So the new dream job for some people is that you travel
and blog about it.
Work.
Oh,
right?
Yes. Right.
So that because of the internet, we can, if we work through a computer, we can do that anywhere.
Sure.
And so this is a thing. Young people having a traveling vehicle and moving about.
If the internet had been there in my day, I probably would have done the same thing. But
a woman I know had
I'm
her
so old now.
her website overhauled by a couple who travel. They do graphic design, website design from their van.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Are they putting savings away? I'd like to know.
I'll have to
Not
ask.
if it's a Westphalia. Not if it's a Vanagon. That's a driving hole in the ground. For money.
It's interesting. You see advertisements from large financial institutions. Schwab and they they say you have $1 million. Is it enough to retire?
$1 million. Well, yeah. See, exactly. In America, it depends how you want to live, right? Simple living, simplifying everything makes living a lot easier if
Reduce
you don't have
the
a bunch
overhead.
of stuff that needs looking after or
storing
stuff that you have to pay taxes on or whatever.
Pare down your existence.
Yeah, or downshifting is another term.
Live on a boat.
Yeah, live on a boat. Boats are basically more holes in the water, as they used to say, that you pour money into. But yeah, that's another sort of a dream that a lot of people have. But living on boats, yeah, sure. Probably not around here. That would not be viable, but there.
Yeah, so please call in. We're talking about retirement. What are your plans for your retirement? Have you been saving? We want to know.
How did they come up with what does the word retirement mean? I mean, how did they come up with that?
Retire. From Ingrid Noyes, she said, one thing I can tell you, retirement does not mean getting tired again, or at least it shouldn't.
Good one.
Well, let me look that up. Oh, we have another call. That's fabulous. Let me look that up. Retirement is the withdrawal from one's position or occupation or from one's active working life. Yeah, okay. Don't know where it comes from.
Well, let's listen to
retire.
our caller.
To withdraw. To withdraw. Tirer is French for to pull.
Caller, you are on the air. Please tell us your name and watch your language.
Okay. I'm David.
Hi, David.
And, I have a job which I think I'm going to keep until I can't do it anymore.
Nice.
Because it gives me social contact, and it's somewhat creative sometimes, and sometimes it's a bit much, but it's never been too little. So I'm very blessed that way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep doing that until, the community needs me to repair their earrings and stuff like that.
Aha.
But I came across a couple came across me, actually. Came into my store, and I got into a conversation about what they do, and they are, quote, retired, unquote, and they have a mobile home. Mm-hmm. They travel around, and they go to different campgrounds around the country and work for a while. They work at the campground, they live in their motorhome, and they get to experience all kinds of different places and parts of the country that they've never been to and experienced, and
And get paid to do it.
And they get paid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, they have and then when they're tired of it, guess what?
They move on.
They move on.
Yeah. Well, we'd thought about that before. I thought about that with Donna years ago, and there is a demand for campground hosts, although I'm guessing that demand is shrinking as there are more of us reaching that wandering age. But, there's a lot of people out there doing the RV thing, and it's like living on a cruise ship. Spend your retirement years on a cruise ship.
I don't know.
That's people are doing it. There are some people doing that. It ends up often being cheaper than a retirement home.
Oh, wow.
Ship? Yeah.
And they're fed and their laundry's done. And,
Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. There are retirees doing that.
I have a hard time wrapping my brain around the kicking it on a lounge chair for the rest of my life, reading magazines and eating bonbons.
Yeah.
So I think, if I had nothing else to do, I think I would be volunteering. I would be I'd be an activist.
Sure.
I would want to make a difference and matter. And I would want to connect with people.
Right.
Well,
I think out here in West Marin, I would say there's a fair proportion of people who are in that position, who are of that age and are certainly active in trying to, in politics, let's say, or in environmentalism. I think that's part of what West Marin does.
David, what are you doing?
He's rolling one.
There's another alternative. People's money goes farther. They move to a foreign country where
Ecuador,
where life is less expensive.
Yes, that's a huge business.
If you want to live there.
Retirement living, yeah.
Well, there are lots of nice places to live that aren't the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. And, right now, I think there's a lot of incentive to think about that, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, Sharon Mooney did that. She moved off to Mexico.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
But then she had some medical crises for which she had to come back. I'm not sure what her status is at the moment.
Oh, dear.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, there is that. Although Mexican healthcare is, some of it is pretty good down there, especially along the border.
And I think Medicare does extend all the way to Mexico.
Does it?
Am I right?
Does it?
I've heard that people go to Mexico to get dental work done and surgeries and,
We've done that.
Well, there's medical tourism going to Thailand and places like that, and India.
Exactly.
Right.
If you want to count India as a vacation spot, I don't, but Thailand maybe, and Mexico certainly.
Yeah. And that is
transplanted while you're there.
Part of some people's dreams is to go and do that. Ecuador, Panama is a big expat destination. Nicaragua. I don't know.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, yeah,
That's
exactly.
a big one.
Uruguay for me, but that will take some convincing.
I'm going to sign off and let somebody else get the line.
Thank you so much,
for
David.
Calling.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Yeah, the living abroad to where you can live like a king on Social Security.
Certainly goes farther.
And where there are less stringent entry requirements if you want to stay.
Ecuador,
yeah.
For
Too hot
really
for me. It's
amazing
on the
things about
equator.
Ecuador.
Yeah, well, it looks lovely. Look, living in Ecuador. There you go. There's a whole big business around this, telling people about. There's certainly a lot of websites, and there's
finding new places to live.
Yes, financial advisors will help you move to Panama.
I used to watch a program on TV. I don't remember the name of it, but it was all about people looking for real estate in other countries.
Yeah.
And connecting with the real estate agent, and they'd look at 3 different properties that were sort of in the ballpark of their price range, and then we'd find out which one they chose. But it was always so fascinating to see these different ways of living in different countries, the way they build and
of
the
course
styles.
You could do it here, maybe not. West Marin is so unaffordable if you're not fortunate enough to have a enough money to see you through without doing anything or
Move to
not worrying about
Ohio,
it.
retire
Well,
in Ohio.
yeah, exactly. There are beautiful places in Ohio and in the south, in the east. Yeah, lovely. And
Sandusky, it's the
Sandusky,
playland of the
I've
elderly.
heard of that. But and Florida, of course, is everyone's East Coast dream, isn't it? Where are we going to move to Florida? No, that's not for me. But yeah, Uruguay. Uruguay only requires $600 a month income
When was the last
to
time
move there and stay there. And
When's the last time you were in Florida, Paul?
Florida? Oh, does it change?
I
I
just
was
wanna
there.
know.
I was there in the mid-70s.
I see. And when you are disparaging Florida with these little stuff.
Oh, the climate is
it's
just
based on
awful.
The humidity.
1970s.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not
still
a fan
100%
of
humidity.
humidity. Yeah.
And 95 degrees.
But the water,
No, thank you.
Oh,
The water, yes.
so beautiful and clear, or it was.
The squalls.
The little
The pollution.
I sort of
chameleons.
like Florida.
The old, of course you do. Yeah, I mean, I was in Tampa, St. Pete's. My ex-wife's family, he was a Marine. They moved there and retired to Tampa. No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to disparage Florida. I'm sure there are Floridians listening, and it's not just a sinkhole waiting to happen. It's a lovely place, and it's a lot of people's perfect getaway for their retirement years. If that's what you want to do, what do you want to do? Sit on a beach in Florida? Is that
Pretty
what
boring, I'd
happens?
say.
And then what? Play pinochle? And
Well, I was at the farmer's market yesterday, Tuesday farmer market in Nevada, and there was a bunch of old guys playing standards. They were having a great time. You know, a little band. They were
a little band, yeah.
Yeah, they were having a
Of
great
course.
time.
Music and art are wonderful things to do in your retirement years. Anyway, I don't know.
Retirement.
I don't feel retired. I feel semi-retired. Let me say I feel semi-retired. I'm not as concerned about... I don't get up at 6 in the morning anymore and go off to work. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So...
That seems to be a great word, though, semi-retired.
Semi-retired,
It's a
yeah.
great-
I mean,
yeah.
it implies a certain age, and it implies that, the fact is that people, especially when there's a demand for people with skills on houses, people will pay extra if you have some experience. So that's one of the great joys of growing older, is the experience that you have is worth something to people.
Yeah.
I don't know about office life though. I guess part of leaving, if you've been in an office all your life in the same job doing the same thing all your life, and you've been around people every day, suddenly there's that break.
I think teaching would be is good, but it's so difficult to get into teaching that you do have a lot of people with a lot of experience, maybe with children who could get involved with classes, teaching children,
Lovely.
whatever it is.
That would be lovely.
My brother-in-law worked at his job for over 30 years, and when he retired, he had something to go to, which was bicycling. He had been doing it on weekends, and suddenly he could do it every day if he wanted to, and that's pretty much what he's doing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
There you are, till he can't anymore.
Right.
Anyway, this has been Let's Talk. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you to all our callers. And KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk, like the quality of Florida. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. Actually, I won't be here next week. We'll have to talk about that. But do tune in on Thursdays and listen to Let's Talk and give us a call. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Shelley.
No matter what I said, it matters.
Bye for now.